Okay, guys, welcome back after lunch to the next session. Now, as far as our topics at hand are concerned, now we'll be discussing about the schedule areas. So let's begin our discussion. I think people have joined. Great. Now, so before lunch, we are discussing about Article 370. I hope we have now a slightly more informed opinion on what is Article 370, what are the issues, concerns pertaining to various stakeholders. Let's see what the court has to say on that particular provision. Now, administration of scheduled and tribal areas, the fifth schedule and the sixth schedule, one by one. These are schedules of the Indian Constitution. Some parts of our country are treated differently. We call them scheduled areas and tribal areas. First up, Schedule 5. Fifth schedule, Article 244, Clause 1 talks about these areas. So 10 states have these areas. It would be more appropriate if you know the names of these states. A question in the prelims can always be asked on the names of these states. That's possible actually. So Andhra Pradesh, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Himachal, MP, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Telangana. And who can declare an area to be scheduled area? The president can declare any area to be a scheduled area, or he can say that the boundaries have been modified, or an area no longer is a scheduled area. To just give you an example of what we are referring to as a scheduled area, say this is a state. Now, in this state, there could be certain pockets. Now, these areas, if they meet the specific condition, could be declared as scheduled area. What kind of conditions? So, condition number 1, preponderance of tribal population, meaning if an area has more than 50% tribal population, or rather 50% or more. So, 50% or more tribals, that area can be called a scheduled area. It should be compact in size. It should be reasonable in size, right? It should be a viable administrative unit, right? Meaning compact and reasonable. You can't say an entire state is a scheduled area. That's not possible, firstly. Number 2, it should be an administrative unit like a block, like a district, etc. You can't say those 5 houses scheduled area, that colony scheduled area. A colony is not an administrative unit. A block is an administrative unit. A district is an administrative unit where you have proper administration, right? That's there. And these areas have socio-economic backwardness compared to neighboring areas. So these are points which make an area a schedule 5 area, right? Let me just show you an example. So this is an example of the state of Rajasthan. So you can see that this area, sorry, wait, this area is a scheduled area, or these areas come under scheduled areas. Scheduled area. And just to give an example, we have all the states names mentioned here. So in some of these areas, let's say states, say Andhra Pradesh, areas in Vishakhapatnam, not the entire city only, but certain parts, East Godavari, West Godavari, so Adilabad, Mehboob in all these areas, some small blocks can be or are categorized into schedule areas. Same goes for Jharkhand, Dumka, Goda, Devgarh, Sahibganj, Ranchi, etc. So certain small blocks under this district are under scheduled areas. Same goes for Chhattisgarh, Himachal, MP, etc. Right? If you belong to any of these states, please remember some examples of certain districts which have scheduled areas inside them. Are we clear? Siddha, what is scheduled area? Sir, you have joined late, it seems. We have already discussed what is scheduled area. What is scheduled area? In simple words. Sir, in simple words only, scheduled area is an area which has more than 50% tribal people and is socially and economically backward. What is more simple than this? Simplest possible definition, that an area which has more than 50% tribal population and is socio-economically backward compared to the neighboring areas. Clear? And otherwise, scheduled area, as per the constitution, it's a very strange way to define it. The constitution says that scheduled areas, those areas which the president calls scheduled area, are called scheduled areas. And that's it. It's like, defining a minority in the country. So the National Commission for Minorities, in their act, the NCM Act, under section 2, they define a minority. And who is a minority? Minority is any community which the government categorizes as a minority. That's the definition. But anyway, we can only know the characteristics, the elements of a scheduled area. So these two important elements. This is a diagrammatic representation. This is the data. You belong to any state, so please at least know some example. Let's say if you're from Gujarat, know say Surat, etc. Have some areas. Sidhya, sir, as shown in the table, Ahmednagar in Maharashtra is scheduled area, not the entire Ahmednagar, but some parts of it. I am from Ahmednagar, but I don't see backwardness in my Ahmednagar. But sir, don't be possessive. It's okay. It's okay. Firstly, it is not to demean anybody. Why do we become so possessive about the place we belong to? It's just a matter of chance that you are living there, you were born there, right? Don't take it so sincerely. The point is that these areas have tribal population and have in general socio-economic backwardness compared to the neighboring areas. Now a simple example could be, maybe in your area the economic parameters are slightly better compared to, say, maybe an area in some other state, but we have to also look at the neighboring and surrounding areas and then make an estimate of whether you are backward or not. And secondly, not the entire city, but small parts of it, or not the entire district, but small parts of it are declared to be scheduled areas. Okay. Are we clear, everyone? No doubts? Post lunch sessions are normally the sleepy and lazy sessions. Now, let's look at firstly, also, just on a side note, why did we have this criteria? Or is it something that we have created? Not really. In fact, this origin of this concept is a British one. We had in 1874 made a law called the Scheduled District Act, where the Britishers categorized certain areas as excluded areas or partially excluded areas. So, in these areas which were excluded or partially excluded, these were inhabited predominantly by the tribal population. So, a law was made called the Scheduled District Act 1874, and later on, an order was also made in 1936 that is called the Government Excluded and Partially Excluded Areas Regulation or Order 1936. So these two things were made, and we can see them as some kind of precursor to the Schedule 5 areas. Now, why do we treat them differently? Of course, you know very well, we treat them differently because socially, educationally, they are slightly backward and they need special efforts. Special efforts are required for their development. Okay, that's there. Now, uh, one more point. When it comes to the reason for categorizing these areas and treating them separately, two important reasons are there. Two important reasons. Reason number one, to preserve and protect the tribal culture. To preserve and protect the tribal culture, we treat them differently. Number two, also to prevent land alienation. To protect the land rights. Okay, to prevent land alienation. That is the reason why we have the Schedule 5 areas. Of course, then other things can follow, things like economic empowerment, providing for good governance in these areas. But these are the two primary reasons why we have Schedule 5 areas, why we treat them differently, ensuring their economic justice, their social justice, their political justice, etc. Now, what are the provisions? Center can issue binding direction to states with respect to the administration of the scheduled areas. Number one. Also, governor of the state which has a scheduled area, it is their duty to furnish annually or at any other point of time a report on the administration of the area to the president. So to the president, the governor has to give a report every year on what has been the administrative situation in the scheduled area, has there been any improvement or not, and to what extent, all such things. Then governor is also authorized to direct that any law made by parliament or the state legislature may apply, may not apply, or if it applies with changes. All these powers with the governor, that they can also direct that, or rather uh, direct that the laws made by parliament and the states may not be applicable at all in a scheduled area, right? So autonomy is given for the governor with respect to his performance in the schedule 5 areas. Then governors can also make regulations with respect to the business of money lending. So let me tell you something. Money lending is not allowed in these areas. Non-tribals are not allowed to lend money to tribals because it is assumed that tribals are living a very simple life there. They are simple people, devoid of all these cunning methods of the outsiders, who may then give them some kind of money and then trap them in some debt, never ending debt trap. So to avoid that, no money lending. If you want money, please approach a financial institution only, like a bank. Secondly, governors can also make regulations with respect to allotment of land and their transfer. So, just to tell you in short, you cannot purchase land in scheduled area. Are we clear? Outsiders are not allowed to purchase land in a scheduled area. Non tribals are not allowed to purchase land. If you do, you lose your money, land plus penalty. For example, this became news few years back. I mean, it's been an old story now, more than 10 years old now. This case happened in Jharkhand, Ranchi, the capital of Jharkhand, a bustling city. So, on the outskirts of Ranchi, lot of land was being given or was given to the scheduled tribes. Now, these scheduled tribes communities, they got land, but they did not have a revenue generation source, or maybe some of them were not working. So, non-tribals, the other people there, they purchased land from these tribals and gave them money. Somebody filed a case in the Jharkhand High Court that how is this possible? These non-tribals are purchasing land from tribals given to them by the government. Land alienation is happening. The Jharkhand High Court issued orders. Non-tribals, come on, give back the land. Tribals, where's the money? If it's left, give it back. If not left, it's okay, no problem. As far as possible, return the money. Plus, fine imposed on the non-tribals for purchasing land. So non-tribals lost the land, lost their money, plus fines. So please don't fall prey. In Schedule 5 areas, you will not be allowed to purchase land. Now, of course, when the governor makes the regulations, the president's approval is required before it can come into force. Requires president's approval. Now, one more thing. In all these states which have scheduled areas, in the state, you have to set up a body called Tribal Advisory Council, TAC. Needs to be set up in states having scheduled areas and also in states having scheduled tribe but no scheduled area. See, when it comes to the states which have scheduled areas, the criteria is very simple. The criteria is that when it comes to any area which has more than 50% tribals, we call it a scheduled area. But sometimes in your state, this may be a possibility that you have tribal population, but they are not concentrated. They are scattered here and there. So collectively, they are a substantial group, but not concentrated. And a scheduled area demands concentration of tribals in one area. So in such states also, there is a mandate to have TAC, Tribal Advisory Council. Okay, so they have to be set up in states having scheduled area, also in states having scheduled tribes but no scheduled area. Example: West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand. These three states do not have scheduled areas, but still they have created TAC. Okay, and whenever the governor makes the regulations, they do it in consultation with TAC. Now, how is the what is the constitution of TAC? TAC consists of 20 members. How many? 20 people. And 3/4 of them, 3/4 members are representatives of scheduled tribes in the states. So, in the states, who are the representatives of scheduled tribes? Please tell me. Tell me. Some common sense. Wake up. Don't sleep. In your state, who is the representative of scheduled tribes? No, 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 no. Somebody has given a correct answer, Parshuram. Forget this question. Generic question. Who is our representative? Tell me. If I ask you, who is your representative? MP, MLA, yes or no? So, who are the representatives of scheduled tribes? Scheduled tribe MLAs. Do you remember by any chance that we had the reservation for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in the Vidhan Sabha also? Yes or no? Right? In the Lok Sabha also? Yes or no? In the Rajya Sabha also? Yes or no? Why no answer? Reservation of SC/ST in the Rajya Sabha. Yes or no? Please type. All of you, full on sleep. In Rajya Sabha, there is no reservation of SC/ST. What? Yes, yes, yes. No. The reservation is only in the Lok Sabha and the Assembly, not in the Rajya Sabha. Only few of you are, I think, awake. Others are all typing yes, sir, yes, sir. Kambapati, Pooja, Akash, Parshuram, and Karan. Anyway, so these are ST MLAs, and largely, what is their function? They basically advise on the welfare and the advancement of scheduled tribes. Advise on welfare and advancement of scheduled tribes. Okay. And these TAC, how will they be elected, etc.? These rules are made by the governor. Rules made by governor on how to create this body, which MLAs to choose, etc. So these are the provisions. Moving on now. Now we are discussing about these scheduled areas which have preponderance of tribal population, and the assumption is that they are comparatively isolated from the mainstream. So we need to ensure that their custom and culture is protected, right? So the provisions of Panchayat, that is part 9, were not applicable to certain areas like Schedule 5 and Schedule 6 areas. But in case we want to apply the provision of Schedule 5 areas, in case we want to apply the provision of Panchayat in Schedule 5 areas, what is required? Tell me. If I want to apply the provisions of Panchayats in Schedule 5 areas, what step needs to be taken? Tell me. Parliament by law can do it. Are we clear? We have already seen this, that Parliament has to make a law and apply the Panchayat provision in Schedule areas. One small question: the panchayat provisions are not applicable in some other northeastern states also, like say Nagaland. In case today we want that the panchayat provisions be made applicable to Nagaland, what can be done or how can it be done? Tell me. Revision, revision. If we want that the panchayat provision should be made applicable to Nagaland, what should be done? Tell me. Governor applies with modification, ADC consent. Others, President amendment cannot be extended. Please go back to your panchayat slides and look at the slide. Part 9 not to be made applicable to certain areas. That was mentioned, Nagaland also. And in case you want to apply the provisions to Nagaland, their state legislature has to approve by a special majority. That is more than 50% total strength and two-thirds present and voting. Are we clear on this? So this is how panchayat provisions can be extended to these areas. Revise, guys. Finer points. Now, finally, in 1996, we said that schedules 5 areas, let's have panchayats. So we extended the panchayat provision to scheduled areas. Panchayats Extension to Scheduled Areas Act was passed. We call it the PESA. 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 So this PESA, the objectives are to extend the provisions of Part 9 of the Indian Constitution to the scheduled areas with certain modifications, because we want to provide self-rule for the bulk of tribal population and to have village governance with participatory democracy, and to make the Gram Sabha a nucleus of all activities. The idea is that Gram Sabha will be the nucleus of all the activities, the center of all the activities. And in these scheduled areas, we have to evolve a suitable administration, but we have to always keep in mind the traditional practices are not trampled over, right? Incorporating, preserving, safeguarding the tribal culture, their custom, their way of life. Okay? Safeguarding and preserving their traditions, their custom. And then to empower the panchayats at appropriate levels with specific power conducive to tribal requirement. Specific power which is conducive to tribal requirement. Panchayats at appropriate level, meaning which kind of panchayat? Gram panchayat, intermediate panchayat, district panchayat, at any level, right? We have to give them powers. Then, what is the provision? So normally we have reservation for SC/STs based on population, but in the scheduled areas, reservation of up to 50% seats at all levels, meaning gram, block, district, for scheduled tribes. Number two, at all the levels, gram, block, district, all the chairpersons will be scheduled tribe person only. In a scheduled area at any level of panchayat, a non-tribal can never be the chairperson. And Gram Sabha has been given some special powers like this: ownership of minor forest produce, enforcement of liquor prohibition, right? Minor forest produce. What is minor forest produce? Bamboo shoot, dry bark of trees like pipla and gumhar, wild mushroom, tree moss. These are known as minor forest produce. Tree moss, dry bark of trees, wild mushrooms, etc. Then enforcement of liquor prohibition, that's also there. Control over local plants, local resources, for example, water bodies. Then prevention of land alienation, land being sold or transferred to non-tribals, not allowed. Land alienation. And control over money lending. In all these areas, the Gram Sabha has the authority or the power. Then, see, other things also, managing village markets, land acquisition, resettlement, all these things. Then, state panchayats, the acts, they should be amended within 1 year. Within 1 year, the state panchayat acts have to be modified to incorporate the customary laws and the social and religious practices of scheduled tribes. The social and the religious practices of scheduled tribes. What's the meaning of that? This means that the various personal laws of tribals need to be incorporated in the panchayat law. When we are demanding, not we are not demanding, when the government is saying that the country needs a uniform personal law, I mean, how can we have uniformity when you have such diverse tribal population? And the government has accepted that tribals need not worry. Then, if tribals need not worry, their practices will be protected. Then, where is the uniformity? Right? So, that's a separate concern. We are in the constitution ensuring that the customary laws of tribals, their social, their religious practices are incorporated in the various state panchayat acts. Now, gram sabha, gram sabha or panchayat at an appropriate level, meaning what level? Gram panchayat or intermediate panchayat or district panchayat at any level shall approve plans and programs for socio-economic development and also identifying beneficiaries. Okay. One more thing. when it comes to when it comes to identifying and choosing these beneficiaries for any kind of scheme or program, gram sabha or the panchayat at appropriate level will be given the right to approve all these plans, etc. Now, very important, with respect to mining projects, when the mining projects are launched, whether a public or a private project, if you're launching any mining project in a scheduled area, hearing a proper gram sabha meeting shall be held with respect to land acquisition, environmental impact, etc. Are we clear? So this is mandatory with respect to the mining projects and all, whether it is public or private, a hearing has to be conducted. Clear? Everybody? Akash, sir, but in scheduled area ADC and residual power, how can SA approve? Sir, it is mentioned in the constitution. Okay, this is a constitutional provision which overrides the power given to ADC under Schedule 6. What I am telling you is Article 243M. Eman, what if evil practices exist? See, if there is any evil practice that exists, that is, of course, violative of your rights. And if it is violative of your rights, it has to be eliminated. So, if a travel committee says that no, we believe in human sacrifice, sorry, that practice may not be allowed. Beyond that, it's okay. Now, Sidhya, what if, no, sorry, Sidhya, what is second point? So, at this point, Gram Sabha or Panchayat at appropriate level. Which point? Gaurav, sir, IS Puja Singhal sold tribal land. How? Sir, these are individual cases. If you are asking me, sir, somebody committed a crime. How? Sir, Vijay Mallya took bank loan and made NPA. How? If people, the laws are meant to be broken by people. What to do? That is not something we can control. Previously, liquor prohibition. What is the meaning of liquor prohibition? Banning drinking of liquor, right? Whiskey, vodka, banned. So Gram Sabha can ban the drinking of whiskey, vodka, etc. Okay. Now, what's the current situation here? See, uh, all the states that have two times have all the states have incorporated the provisions of PESA in their respective state panchayati acts. In fact, the last state was Rajasthan in 1999 only. So, of course, it was a bit of a delay because it was originally stated within 1 year, please do it. But Rajasthan took some more time. But every state has done it. Now, laws have been incorporated, have been modified. But what about rules to be issued to govern the Schedule 5 areas? They are yet to be made. 8 states have notified their state PESA rules under their laws. Jharkhand and Odisha are yet to do it. And just to point this out, MP and Chhattisgarh in 2022. So these two states did it just last year. Okay, I think Chhattisgarh in August and MP in November. So see, the law was made in 1996. After 26 years, some states modified and issued rules for the governance in these areas. So you can see very well how effective and efficient our governments are and how focused they are on ensuring that the tribals get that self rule. Anyway, now coming to the problem with PESA. See, one simple problem. The idea of PESA was that, we are going to make the tribals their masters of their own destiny. It's like a harbinger of hope and promise for the tribals that you are going to be your own bosses now. Has that really happened? It's doubtful. Firstly, lack of exposure amongst members with respect to PESA. Lot of members there in the communities, they have no idea about PESA, right? Number one. Number two, law itself is very loosely worded. Loosely worded, meaning what? Look at this. Look at this provision here. Panchayat at appropriate level. What's the meaning of panchayat at appropriate level? Panchayat at appropriate level. So what this means is, if today I at the central government want to launch a scheme or a program in a scheduled 5 area, I can take the approval of Gram Panchayat or intermediate Panchayat or district Panchayat. Now tell me, taking the approval at what level is the easiest? District Panchayat. Easiest. Because I have my officer there, the district collector, people like you who are posted there. One phone call to you. Do you want nice posting? Delhi posting? You say, yes, sir. Delhi posting. What to do? Who to kill? And then they'll say, get the approval of district panchayat. One phone call from the district collector to district panchayat members. On their phone, it will show God calling. You are God for them. You have called them. The controller of all the funds, all the resources. Right? So that's how much of respect is shown to the district collectors and DMs in the villages. There's a very old joke which goes around that in a village, the CM was coming for a visit, and somebody said, CM is coming. So the old people in the village, they were sitting near the tree, and they said, oh, CM, we thought DM is coming. It's just a CM. So that's the approach. They would be of, so much of reverence and regard for the district magistrate that they thought he is the only boss. Who is CM, PM, president? We don't care. DM is the my bab. That was the situation. Anyway, so that is the point. Please don't expect the same kind of reverence now. People have become more educated now, right? So that same reverence and godly treatment may not be given, but yes. So if I have made a provision which says that the law needs the approval at any level of panchayat, then the government will never take the gram panchayat's approval. It will always get an approval through the district panchayat, and we are simply bypassing the people. That's the problem. Then forest department. See, this is a constant tussle between the villagers and the forest department, the tribals in the forest department, because most of these state laws have not been modified appropriately. So there's a concern whenever tribals venture into the fields, into the forests, they may collect some kind of things, and then the forest people, the forest officers will come, chase them away, shoo them away, fights happen, etc. All these things. So forest department still excessively controls all the resources, including the minor forest produce, because states' forest laws have not been modified accordingly. So PESA allows for it. Forest Act does not. Contradiction. And of course, forest officers, they are mighty powerful. That becomes a concern. Then high levels of illiteracy. That's also a challenge for the government to improve administration. Then codification of customs, not done yet. So when we said that we want to incorporate all the customary laws, etc., you will find that for a lot of tribals, their way of life, their religious practice, their cultural practice is yet to be made into a law or is yet to be incorporated in the state PESA laws, state panchayat acts. So codification of those customs and practices is yet to be done for some communities. Then poor training of the functionary, standard problem at the panchayati level. Also, conversion of villages into Nagar Panchayats. Now, think of a scheduled area. A scheduled area can be a rural area or can be an urban area, right? If a scheduled, this is a scheduled area. If a scheduled area, let's say this part is rural and this part is urban. If a scheduled area is a rural area, then you have to ensure that PESA provisions are applicable, changing the laws, etc. All the drama is required. But if the governor issues a notification, no, this area is no longer a scheduled area, this no longer a rural area, this is also an urban area. If tomorrow the governor says, sorry, this is also what? An urban area, then when it's an urban area, there is no such compulsion. PESA not required. PESA is only meant for rural areas. It's panchayat. Do we have any corresponding law called MESA? Municipalities, extension to scheduled areas. MESA is not there. So if I have to fulfill so many obligations because this scheduled area is rural, I'll simply recategorize the scheduled area as urban, and I will now escape all my responsibilities simply by recategorizing this area. So, conversion of villages into Nagar Panchayat. If you remember, Nagar Panchayats are those transitional areas. Transitional areas. And then public hearings. Now, let's come to that also. This point. When mining projects are being launched, public hearings are being conducted. Really? Do you think there's a Gram Sabha meeting when mining projects are launched? Of course not. A call to district collector. Get the sign. I'll call you to Delhi. I'll give you better posting. Don't worry. And the DC will call the Gram Panchayat or district Panchayat members. Get the sign of Gram Sabha. Conduct a meeting. Get their approval. A fake on paper meeting is conducted. Gram Sabha meeting. 50 people sign. Approval done. That is why when the approval is obtained, and then you see protests happening despite approvals, because the people have not been genuinely taken on board. Some kind of fake and false meeting, a farce, just a joke on paper, only on paper, and that is why the problem. That's why we say that there is a suggestion that there should be video recording of meetings. Video recording of meetings should be undertaken. Very, very important. Are you clear? And lastly, every day you are reading your monthly magazines, I'm sure. In your monthly magazines or in the newspapers also, you must be finding this, that this minister has gone to some foreign country and has signed 16 MOUs on science and tech, on agriculture, on water harvesting, all such things. 20 MOUs signed with South Africa, 50 MOUs signed with Israel. All these MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, is signed, right? Like in the recent G20, MOUs are being signed here and there. Now, what is the process of signing MOUs? The right process. If I call some foreign company or foreign countries to come to our country and give us their technical know-how or invest, so I need to make all the possible things ready here in terms of land requirement, manpower requirement, etc. So I should get the approval of people beforehand. Get them on board. Let's see, in this area, we are going to launch a new factory, industry setup. So please, your land will be taken by us. We'll rehabilitate you into some other place. And then go and call people, come, I have land, come and invest. But that's not what happens. MOU is signed beforehand. That, come on, come to India. We have plenty of land. Land? Why are you worrying? We have it. Come on. I'll give you land. Now these companies come. The MOUs are signed. Now the minister comes back, calls all the DCs. Come on, get the land approval now. MOU has been signed. Company says it will come in October for investment or for visit. Please get the approval. And now use of stick, use of the coercive machinery to force the tribals into signing. Okay, please, yes, we have given approval. And then the problem of NGOs coming in, raising concern, Supreme Court entering, stay order, etc. That's why we say that use of government machinery to enforce MOUs without appropriate PESA implementation. That is why there's a play of words, government and tribals. Tribals want PESA. Please apply PESA properly. Government wants PESA, money. And because government is becoming MOU Wadi, it is forcing the tribals to become Maowadi, extremist, coming in contact with the left wing extremists. That's what is happening, right? So, this is what is there as a very, very serious concern in the country. And uh, this fight between the tribals and the government with respect to the resources of Jal, resource of jungle, and Zameen, the three J's, tribals are losing this fight on a daily basis, right? There are so many main actors in this entire situation: traditional leaders, new entrants, local bureaucracy, non tribal society, government departments, forest department, revenue department, right? Everybody all out to take their share, but nobody there to protect the way of life of the tribals, right? That is all as far as schedule 5 areas is concerned. Done. Doubts, if any? No doubts, no concerns. Sidhya, we'll have to see the list of tribals according to the Constitution Scheduled Tribe Order 1950 in that state. So, people who are given the status of scheduled tribe in the state are the ones who will be allowed to purchase land. If the governor issues some modification and says even other tribal communities are allowed, then we'll have to see separately those particular notifications to see which other communities have been allowed. But ideally, it's those tribals who live in the state. Uh, Akash, not the entire area, large parts of it. Yes, of course. Because one very important criteria for scheduled area is also tribal population. And see, the idea is that these are ways in which center can exercise influence over various parts of the country. So it is going to be a big challenge that center will recategorize an area and put it outside a scheduled area until and unless it sees some kind of advantage. Okay, so it depends. If the Andhra Pradesh government, which is it is extremely unlikely to, uh, comes in favor of the ruling dispensation right now, which it will never, because they differ on the very important aspect of uh, the voter base, the religious voter base, right? Sadly, it is all about religion everywhere. So, the central government is being seen as supporting a particular community, whereas the Andhra Pradesh government is being allegedly being seen as supporting one particular community. Karan, that's what I said. Which tribals are allowed to purchase land? If you are, if you are a tribal notified in that state, so there is an order called Constitution Scheduled Tribes Order 1950. In this list, you can download it and you can find that in every state there are certain tribal communities. So ideally, those only are allowed. Outsiders may be allowed if the governor notifies it. That is on a case-to-case basis. Gaurav, uh, no, sir, they are the same only, right? It's just that the generic name the origin of this issue, which happened in West Bengal, Naxalbari, and the name comes from there. So similarly, it's all the same concept. We have a party also, an illegal one, of course, the CPI Maoists. So that's it. Same people, same agenda, nothing to look forward to, nothing new to offer, but just the destruction of the existing institutions without any alternative. That's the biggest drawback of communists. Now, I don't want to bash the communists. We are doing it on a daily basis, but they don't have any alternative. They want to reduce everything to the same situation of class divide. There are hundreds of other variables involved. Sadly, they try to simplify things, right? And then they deny inequality. See, inequality will always exist. If at this point of time, see, look at this class only. You are all attending the same class, same faculty, same resource. Some of you are sitting diligently, others must be sleeping, others must be going here and there, leaving the seat in between, others must be watching the match also and this also. And after you go back home, some of you may revise, others may not revise. Those who put in the effort will clear the examination. So even if today I give all of you here 1 lakh rupees, I'm not giving anybody any money, just an example. After 1 year, if I meet all of you, everybody here will be in a different situation with that 1 lakh rupees. There can never be complete equality. That is why the idea should be equality of opportunity. That's it. We cannot ensure outcomes to be equal. That is beyond our control, right? And that should be the rightful demand. Equality of opportunity for every individual, irrespective of your gender, your class, your caste, etc. Kambapati like 6/9. No, not really. Why? Not required. For Delhi, we had to make certain modifications in the constitution, right? Which, without even doing that, it would be okay because we already have a law for the union territories, right? That's there. Now coming to Schedule 6 areas, which are called tribal areas. So generally, we distinguish these two areas. Schedule 5 areas, we call them scheduled areas, and Schedule 6 areas, we call them tribal areas. Though both have tribal population only, but just for the sake of distinction, to make it easy for us to use it on a day-to-day basis. Now, what is this sixth schedule? Sixth schedule, same concept, but in Northeast, in the 4 northeastern states. So look at this diagram here. Diagram here. You have these 4 northeastern states. You have the state of Tripura. This is Tripura, of course. This state is Mizoram. Then this till here, Jaintia. Meghalaya. Uh, Beyond this, we have one more state, and what is that state? Assam. This here, Assam. So you can see that in all these states, say in Mizoram only, you have these small parts, districts, which come under Schedule 6. Or in Tripura, this area. Or in Assam, this area, this area, this area. Or in Meghalaya, these 3 areas. Are we clear on this? Okay. What, Pooja? Manipur? This is Manipur. Not a part of Schedule 6. Clear? This is Manipur. This is Nagaland. Then you have Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, here you have Sikkim. Done. seven sister states, and Sikkim. Schedule 6 areas are only for 4 states. Now, some of you may say that, sir, why separate treatment? Why not Schedule 5 only, 14 states? We could have done that, but then the problem is that Schedule 5 areas refer to states or refer to those areas where the issue is largely ethnicity, a simplistic way of life, tribal culture, custom, etc., and educational backwardness. But in the northeastern part of the country, the reason is, of course, ethnicity. That's there. I am not denying it. But also separatism, separatist tendencies. That's also there. Insurgency movements. Now it has been coming down drastically. More on this in your internal security classes. Now it has come down drastically, but it did exist, right? And also the tribals living in northeastern part of the country. Please don't think of them as the tribals that you see maybe in remote areas of MP or Chhattisgarh. These tribal people are highly educated people, right? Look at how they dress, extremely stylish way of dressing and all. They're educated people, okay? Don't think that they are tribals of some remote area in the country. No, no, no. Literacy rates are very high here, highly educated. So, of course, their issues are different from the tribals in other parts of the country. So, a different treatment is required. That is why treating them separately. Okay. Now, one more thing. There is a demand. Before somebody asks this concern, there is a demand. Ladakh. Now, Ladakh has 97% tribals. 97%. Ministry of Home Affairs has set up a high-powered committee already to protect the land and also employment for people in Ladakh. But as of now, it is just a demand, and we are not going to see, at least in the near future, Ladakh being clubbed under Schedule 6. May not happen because the government has not shown interest so far, right? So that is separate. As we said, the same old story here also. What? Preserving and protecting distinct culture. To preserve and protect the distinct culture. Number two, protecting the land rights. Number three, also democratic devolution of power. I'll explain this shortly through the entire structure here. Democratic devolution of power. And also for speedy transfer of funds so that funds can be transferred quickly. We have these provisions. Are we clear? Why not tribal areas of Andaman? They're already under central control, right? So center already directly controls them. What's the point of further putting them under separate special governor's control? Makes no sense, right? Understand that these are states. Now, these tribal areas are, or these Schedule 6 areas are in 4 states, names of states is names of states. Let me use green. Names of states important. Names of those tribal areas, not really, not important. So ignore that. Now coming to what is a provision. Firstly, in all these areas which are under schedule 6 areas, you have to identify firstly these areas. What are the schedule 6 areas? So there are some autonomous districts. We have to identify those autonomous districts, number one. And once you have identified, like say this is going to be an autonomous district, okay, we are going to give autonomy to this district, then in this particular or for this area, for this schedule 6 area, we have to create a body, and that body will be called autonomous district council, DC or ADC. The meaning is the same. The constitution calls it DC, but it's popularly called as ADC, autonomous district council. Just like in the case of schedule 5 areas, for the entire state there is one TSC. For schedule 6 areas, every autonomous district has its own ADC or DC. Clear? That is why you will see here Khasi Hills ADC, Jaintia Hills ADC, Garo Hills ADC, Mizoram Chakma ADC, Lai ADC, Mara ADC, Tripura tribal areas ADC, Dima Hasao, Karbi Anglong, and Bodoland ADC, which is called Bodoland Territorial Council. Now, let's take the example of Mizoram only. Mizoram only. Now, these areas are autonomous districts. What about other parts of Mizoram? So, in other parts of Mizoram, if there exists any tribal community, then we can create for other parts RCs. Regional council can be created. These areas ADC, other parts councils. So, and regional councils with substantial tribal population, that can also be created. So ADC and RCs can be created. Now, every DC shall consist of maximum 30 members. How many members? 30. Out of these 30 people, 26 are elected, 4 are nominated, and the governor makes rules for election and nomination. Some are elected, some are nominated. 26 elected, 4 nominated, and governor makes the rules. Okay, now one exception, though it is not really important to remember, but there is an exception, and the exception is Bodoland Territorial Council. It has 46 members. It does not have 30, but has 46 members, where 40 are elected, 6 are nominated, out of which 2 have to be women. Out of the 40 to be elected, 30 tribals, 5 non-tribals, 5 open. All that is of no concern to you. Now, laws made by DC require governor's consent. Laws made by DCs? Yes. These ADCs or DCs, they have the power to make laws. They have legislative powers. They have executive powers. They have financial powers. And there is a separate judicial system here. Okay? We'll see it shortly. And over matters on which ADC can make laws, over matters on which ADC can make laws, state laws will not extend unless the ADC allows. So there are certain topics on which ADCs have been allowed to make laws. On those topics, of course, on other topics there is no limit, but on those topics we cannot allow the ADCs to make laws. But on those topics where ADCs are allowed to make laws, the laws made by state legislature will not extend actually without the ADC's permission. Anyway, now let's come to what exactly are we talking about here? What are these powers that ADCs have? So all these areas are extremely autonomous. Let's see. The legislative powers, meaning topics on which ADCs can make laws. Number one, see, one thing go without saying, that control of money lending and trading by non-tribals, that's of course there. Beyond that, allotment, occupation, and use of land. So outsiders, sorry, cannot purchase land here also. Now, let me just clarify one thing here. Let there not be any misconception in your mind that outsiders are not allowed to purchase land. This limitation is not on government and all. Okay, government can occupy your land. Sorry, this limitation is on private individuals or companies, corporations. So just to clarify this point, I need to mention this so that there is no confusion here. However, government, let's write government of India and government of state. They can acquire land compulsorily. But the only point is that it should be for a public purpose. Okay. For public purpose, the land can be compulsorily acquired. Now, beyond that, management of forests, except reserves, of course. Don't say, sir, can they manage forest reserve? Of course not. That's under forest department. Except the forest reserves. Use of canals, water courses, water bodies, the regulation of the practice of shifting cultivation. What is this called? Shifting cultivation, Jhoom. Then establishment of village and town committees. Matters relating to village and town administration. What kind of matters? They can make laws on matters of sanitation, matters of health, police, sanitation, health, police, etc. Then appointment and succession of chief and headmen of tribes, right? So appointing them, the tribes, how their headmen are to be appointed, how their chief are to be selected, on all such things, they can make laws. Then all aspects of personal laws, meaning topics like marriage, divorce, inheritance, right? Uh, social customs, etc. Personal laws. Again, the same old story. We have given them so many powers uh, to make laws, including personal matters. How will we ever have uniform personal laws in the country? It is not possible, not required also. Now, executive power. What's the executive power? This basically flows along the same lines as you have for the legislative power. So, establishing, constructing, and managing primary schools, dispensaries, markets, road and water transport, fisheries, ferries, cattle ponds, all such things. One small point: all these things to establish, to construct, and to manage these things, the prior approval of governor is required. Central control, prior approval of governor. This is required when it comes to what? The executive powers. And then also managing agriculture, animal husbandry, community projects, social welfare, cooperative societies, village planning, all such things. Judicial powers. Now, in these areas, we have a separate court system only. Separate court system. So at the base, we have village council. Village council, if you're unhappy with their orders, you can challenge them in the district council. And if you're unhappy with their orders, then of course you can go to High Court. So you can see here, there's a two-tier court structure, separate two-tier setup. Let me just clarify one thing here. When I say separate two-tier structure, it is only meant for scheduled tribes. Tribal dispute. If you are a non-tribal, you please approach the regular courts, not these courts. But they have their own separate court also. Then, financial powers. Powers to levy, impose, levies to impose and collect taxes. So, what kind of taxes are we referring to here? Land revenue, tax on animals, vehicles, entertainment, amusement park, etc. Okay, these kind of taxes, some examples. And just like you have the CFI, you have the CFS, and if the state legislature by law wants, then for the panchayats you can also create a fund for the panchayats. Similarly, there is also this option of creation of district and regional fund for fiscal devolution of resources from the state. Clear? That can also be created. This is the structure, and these are the powers that we have devolved to Schedule 6 areas. Then one more important point to remember, that when any central law or a state law is made, it will be applicable in Assam, or it will not be applicable. It can be modified. Plus modification in application. Who decides that? In the case of Assam, the governor decides. Central law or state law. In the case of Meghalaya, the president decides. Central law or state law. In the case of Tripura and Mizoram, for state laws, the governor decides. But for central laws, the president decides. Clear? And one more thing. Of course, it goes without saying that the governor can appoint a commission to inquire into the conditions of or a report on the administration of the DCs, ADCs. But a very important point, you know, when these ADCs make laws, those laws should not be prejudicial should not hamper public order, and should not endanger the safety of India. Because if you make such a law, that law will be cancelled by the governor. So, just a point to note that governor can cancel laws or rules made by ADCs if they are likely to endanger likely to endanger safety of the country, or if they are prejudicial to public order, hamper public order. Okay, if they hamper public order, that's also there. So these are the provisions pertaining to Schedule 6 areas. Just to quickly summarize on the issues, very simple. First one is the codification of customary laws. Very easy to understand. Codification of customary laws. See, there are so many tribes, right? A very good example is Tripura only. It is not that you only have two or three tribal communities, multiple tribal communities. Now, every tribal community may not be able to get their representative in the ADC. And if your tribal group does not have a representative, then how effectively will the ADC take steps to incorporate your personal laws or your practices in the laws there? It's best left for them only to understand, and it is not going to happen. So not every community feels equally welcome, because yes, not every community's laws have been codified so far. That also results in a tribal conflict there. It happens. Second, corruption. Of course, don't think that ADCs are beyond corruption. If panchayats are not beyond corruption, why ADCs? Then, irregular financial devolution. Funds are never released on time. It's always delayed. Some arm twisting is done to either give some approval for some kind of project, or if elections around the corner, etc. So, irregular financial devolution. There is always irregularity in the release of funds. Then, land alienation. Now, you may say, sir, how is it possible? You have been saying that we can't purchase land. Of course, two ways. One very simple way to purchase land is lease. 499 years of lease. That's as good as purchasing land only. So land is taken at lease. Second is lease with long tenure. Second is Benami purchase. What is Benami? A lot of you who are IS going to be IS officers here will understand Benami very quickly. Because see, every year you have to submit your assets and liabilities, so you cannot have more money in your bank account. That's not possible. That's not happening. So what do? We'll purchase land in somebody else's name, not in our own name, somebody else's name. So that is called a Benami property. Okay. And see, I had mentioned this point earlier that people here are educated people. They understand all this nonsense. If you take land in the name of some local tribal there who is working in your house, oh, as a domestic help, don't think that people won't come to know. They are educated people. They know all this, that what nonsense you're doing. So it also results in lot of tribal, non-tribal conflict. Then issue of representation. A very good example here is Assam. If you look at Assam, Assam has roughly 12.4% tribals in the total population. But out of this 12.4% population, 35% are Bodos. One third are Bodos. They practically control everything, right? So other tribals are not getting adequate representation, which is causing a concern for them. And lastly, the relevance of ADCs in Meghalaya. Barring some parts of the capital district, almost entire state is under ADCs. Look at this photograph. This is Meghalaya. Barring some areas of Shillong district, everything is under ADC only. What's the point of ADC? Or what's the point of state government? Right? So that's again a concern. So these are the issues. But just to summarize, the Schedule 6 areas have a positive conclusion because they have helped in bringing down insurgency. They have given self-rule to tribal population and autonomy. Of course, you may say that, sir, we are putting so much of money and that's the reason why we are winning their love. But it's okay. I mean, yes, the end conclusion here is that insurgency has reduced. Also, autonomy or self rule has been provided, which makes them not hold grudges against the larger mainstream. Uh, and things are improving slowly and steadily, right? We are trying to mainstream them, bring them in the mainstream as well. That is again going to take some time because public perception also, when people from northeast come to other parts of the country, uh, there is a genuine problem that they may face when it comes to you know casual racial remarks, etc. So of course they would feel bad. So far the central governments have largely ignored these areas. Textbooks have ignored these areas, just like somebody from Tamil Nadu, right, would feel that uh, where are my great kingdoms mentioned in these textbooks? So do these communities, right? Where are we in the mainstream textbooks? I mean, I think we have had comprehensive discussion in mainstream media nowadays that how have our textbooks denied people the knowledge of various kingdoms, various kings, queens, etc. And why have we only been looking into all those situations where we have lost battles and all, right? Hardly a paragraph or two on the Cholas and Pandyas, hardly a chapter on Vijayanagar Empire, but so much of focus on the Lodhis, etc. That's again the Delhi-centric approach to studying. Sadly, you have to blame the left wing only for this, that they were the ones who had to control this. They did not do a very good job. It was just one sided knowledge being imparted to the people. So no stories of a home kingdom and its constant victory over the Mughals. But yes, we are singing praises, and our celebs are keeping names of these foreign invaders, Abdalis and Taimurs, etc., uh, as their kids' names. But yes, that's the end of it. A positive conclusion for Schedule 6 areas. Shahid, yes, yes, of course. Why not? No problem. They can live in scheduled areas. Now, UPSC never used to ask question from these areas. Never ever. For the first time in 2022, they asked a question. Solve this question first, and then we'll move on to the question asked last year. Oh, poll. I'll give 30 seconds now. I gave some time already. Done? Okay, great. If a particular area is brought under the fifth schedule, which one of the following statements best reflects the consequence? This would prevent the transfer of land of tribal people to non-tribal people. This is correct. This would create a local self-governing body. Why? We already have local self-governing bodies, panchayats everywhere. In fact, schedule areas were outside of it. If you bring some area under Schedule 5, it does not automatically get a panchayat. In fact, panchayat provisions are automatic, right? Other two are absolute nonsense. So, easy question. A question asked this year. Not too difficult, slightly more difficult. Okay, great. Easy question, not that difficult. Within a state, the notification of an area, the scheduled area, takes place through an order of a president. Absolutely correct. The largest administrative unit forming the scheduled area is a district, and the lowest is a cluster of villages in a block. Correct. The CM of the concerned states are required to submit annual reports. Not the CM, it's the governor, to submit annual report to the Home Ministry, not the Home Ministry, but to the president. So this is wrong. Two statements are correct. B, only two is the right answer. Right? Now, emergencies in the Indian Constitution. See, as far as just to point this out, this issue in Manipur is concerned, the Methi versus Kuki issue. It is a non-issue as far as the polity aspect is concerned. What transpired later on became a security concern. So originally, this issue, the base of this issue was polity. And what was that? Reservation. So just to briefly, 2 minutes on this, and then we'll take a break. The Metis, Kuman, Luwang, Moirang, and Methi, uh, originally four tribes, they all were finally absorbed in Metis only. And they roughly are around 60 to 65% in population, but are living in a very confined space of just 10% of the state. in and around Imphal Valley. The Kukis, Chin tribes and all, Nagas and Kukis, they are around 35% in population, but live in 90% of the land spread across the state. Now the problem was this High Court order. I mean, not the problem, but that was origin. So we have these two tribal communities largely, the Metis and the Kukis, Nagas and Kukis. Now, uh, it all boils down to the benefits from the government. So, High Court said that why have you not included Metis under the reservation for scheduled tribes? And High Court issued an order saying that denying the Metis the right to be included under scheduled tribe violates Article 14 and right to life also, Article 21 also. And state government, you please send a recommendation to center within 4 months, because state governments have no power to put you under the list of ST or SC. States can only put you under OBC, but for SC ST, center parliament has the power. So the state government was asked to send this recommendation within 4 months to center to get Metis, Manipuris also in the list of scheduled tribes. That is the origin of the conflict, right? Now later on, how things transpired, we all know. And sadly, the complete absence of a strong iron hand here is what resulted in all this happening, where the state government, the central government, they largely were unable to simply keep a check on the spread of violence across the state, right? Nikhil, is it not possible to find a solution which can solve both problems by not giving Metis the reservation on ST list, but allowing them to buy land anywhere in that state? It is not all just about buying land. It's also about the opportunities in employment. It's also about the specific schemes for the scheduled tribes. So that dividing line cannot be drawn where you will say that we are giving you every benefit, but will not categorize you. So that is a challenge. And see, frankly, uh, this issue of reservation is a very critical one. Look at the situation in Maharashtra also, right? So governments never want to interfere, especially because see, they can be two things. Let's say I want reservation for my community. If my community is too small, then I'm sidelined. Who cares? I'm not even a viable vote bank. But if I command a huge community, I come from a huge community in terms of number, population, vote bank, that is when the government feels that, oh, what to do now? Because if we say yes, trouble from others. If I say no, trouble from them. So they always remain silent. That's what they choose to do. Sometimes silence does not work. Anyway, that is all. Let's take a break. Be back at 4 o'clock, and then we'll continue our discussion with respect to emergencies in the Indian Constitution. Break, please. Come back at 4. Welcome back, guys. In break only India. Oh, of course, yeah. So the break was a good thing for India. 3 wickets taken. Now, let's move on and discuss the emergencies in the Indian Constitution. Various types of emergencies, starting with, of course, the basic information on how many emergencies. So we have primarily three types of emergencies in the country. One is called the proclamation of emergency, which is normally referred to as national emergency. Second one is the president's rule, which is the failure of the constitutional machinery in the state. And third is the financial emergency, which is due to the financial stability uh, under threat. Now, how many times has the national emergency been imposed? Tell me. Article 352, national emergency. Article 356, state emergency or president's rule. Article 360 is the financial emergency. So, how many times have we seen the proclamation of national emergency? 3, 2, 4. Oh, just 4 wickets gone. Hi, Akash. You please focus on the class now. Ignore the match. One, one. Okay. National emergency has been imposed 3 times so far. 3 times. One was in the case of Indo-China War, 62. Then it was in 1971, and then in 1975, which most of you would know popularly as emergency, because recently we have been discussing in the mainstream media a lot about that emergency. Of course, it is very important to discuss that as well, because that was a point where people's rights were completely trampled upon. But anyway, other important articles dealing with the proclamation of emergency are Article 350, 353, 354, 358, 359. Other articles dealing with the president's rule are 355 and 357. And for financial emergency, only one article, 360. Uh, how many times has the president's rule been imposed? More than 100 times so far. Till 2016, it had been imposed or proclaimed 115 times. Financial emergency, we have never had this. None so far. And now India is too big to fail, so we don't really think that that will be done as well, that will ever happen. Now, coming to the first point, national emergency. Article 352, provisions. First point, who can impose it? This emergency can be imposed by the president, but only if the president is satisfied that conditions exist for emergency. But the satisfaction of the president is not the president's personal satisfaction, it is the satisfaction of the cabinet, written satisfaction of the cabinet. This was actually added in 1978 because Indira Gandhi had misused this provision and she had single handedly asked the president to impose emergency without even consulting the Council of Ministers. So that is how it was done. So, to of course improve upon that, to tide over that problem, this was done. A change was made, and you'll also be surprised to know that this is the only place in the entire constitution that the word cabinet has been used. Only place in the constitution to use the word, though the meaning is the same. Meaning means council of ministers only, article 74. But this is the only place where you will find actually the word cabinet. That's it. Now, my point is, what are those situations? What are those conditions? So, it can be imposed if the president is satisfied that grave emergency exists. Grave emergency exists, or there is a threat to the security of India, or a small part, or there is an imminent danger of war, external aggression, armed rebellion. Originally, it was internal disturbance. Now, internal disturbance is a very loose word. What would you mean by reference to internal disturbance? You can simply say 10 people are protesting, disturbance has been caused, emergency. In fact, this was what Indira Gandhi used. That some people were protesting and wanted her to resign because of a judgment in the Allahabad High Court against her. And she used that as creating internal disturbance in the country and imposed the president's rule. In 1970, when Janata Party came to power, it said, sorry, this word is very loosely used and is prone to misinterpretation. So, armed rebellion is now used. So, national emergency can only be imposed on these grounds: war, external aggression, or armed rebellion. One more thing, this emergency can be imposed in the entire country or a small part. Okay, that's both are possible. Now, role of the parliament. What is the role of the parliament? So, when a national emergency is imposed, it should be approved by the parliament within 1 month. Within a month, you have to approve the emergency. Are we clear? Within 1 month. How should it be approved? This approval should be through a special majority, meaning 2/3 present and voting, more than 50% total strength or membership within 1 month. Now, once it is approved, the emergency cannot continue forever. It will only remain in force for 6 months. 6 months from the date of approval of proclamation. Okay, when this approval was made, from that date, it is to remain in force. Now, for every further extension of 6 months, parliamentary approval is required. When you want to extend the emergency for 6 months, again approve, again continue for 6 months, again approve. And this approval will always be with the same special majority. Clear? How long can this emergency continue? Tell me. How long can this emergency continue with an regular intermittent approval? Can continue indefinitely. The only condition is every 6 months approval. If that approval comes, it can continue for as long as the government wants it to. Okay. Now, can this emergency be revoked, removed? Yes. Can it be varied? Yes. It can be varied also. Of course, the government can do it. The president can do it. Parliament can also do it. This is a special power of Lok Sabha. So the special power of Lok Sabha is that the Lok Sabha, the quorum of Lok Sabha, 1/10 members have to give a notice in writing to the speaker. When this is given to the speaker has to call for a special sitting, which is to be conducted within 14 days. In this special sitting, this notice has to be approved that we want to remove emergency. If this resolution to remove emergency to remove or vary is approved by a simple majority also, the emergency is removed. Are you clear? Now, one more point can be, what if the house is not in session? Then you don't give it to the speaker, you give the same resolution or notice to the president. If house not in session. Okay. This is how we can vary it. A special power of the Lok Sabha. Raj Sabha has no control over ending emergency. It only has to approve the emergency. Now, what happens due to national emergency? Executive, legislative, financial, and the effect on fundamental rights. Very simple. Executive effect. States are under complete executive control of the center. Are we clear? States are under complete executive control of the center. Center can issue any kind of direction to the states, and the states have to perform those tasks. Now, legislative effect. One more interesting point here. So far, we had seen a situation where the parliament is allowed to make laws on stateless subjects when the Raj Sabha gives an approval. Raj Sabha under Article 249 gives an approval. Fair enough. My point is very simple. Raj Sabha gives an approval means we are depending on Raj Sabha's approval. Is there any other way to make laws on stateless subjects? Yes, there is. And what is that? Parliament is empowered to make laws on matters of the state list. Parliament can make laws during a national emergency. Article 250. Now, let me clarify. It is not that the states will not be allowed to make laws. States can also make laws. It is just that the parliament has the overriding power. So think of it that state list behaves like concurrent list. Now, also, when during emergency any law is made by the parliament on any state list subject, those laws will not continue forever. The moment an emergency is over, 6 months after the end of emergency, the laws also end. Laws cease to operate 6 months after the end of emergency. Are we clear? So this is with respect to the laws made by the parliament on state list subject. Also, when emergency is in force, normally what's the duration of Lok Sabha? Any idea? What is the duration or tenure of Lok Sabha? Tell me. How many years? Okay, 5 years, fair enough. Lok Sabha's tenure is 5 years. Of course, it can be dissolved beforehand also, but the tenure is 5 years. Can the tenure of Lok Sabha be extended? Yes, it can during emergency. During such a proclamation of emergency, the parliament by law, simple majority, can extend the life of Lok Sabha or the assembly by 1 year at a time. Again and again, the tenure can be extended. For example, in 1975, tenure of Lok Sabha was extended twice, and the 1971 to 76 Lok Sabha actually functioned for over 5 years, just shy of 6 years, 5 years and 11 months. So, yes, it can be extended. Definitely, it has been extended twice so far. Clear? Now, what are the financial effects? Financial effects are that during Akash, sir, if after 6 months it is not approved, then no revoke. No, they're not required, of course. Dinesh, how will other parties accept for extending their tenure? We don't care. The parliament is accepting it, right? That's it. Parliament is accepting it. So that is sufficient reason. Okay. Third point, Pooja, this point. See, when you make any kind of law during emergency by the center on those topics, the law continues. But when the emergency is over, after 6 months from that date, the law made by parliament is also over on stateless subject. So it is not that the parliament gets the comprehensive right to make a permanent law on stateless subjects. No. It's just a temporary law only, which will end when the emergency comes to an end. I mean, 6 months after the emergency comes to an end. Clear? Now the financial effects. What are the financial effects? See, Finance Commission gives recommendation on how to devolve funds, etc., between the center and states. This revenue distribution can also be modified by the center during emergency. Center is empowered to alter the distribution of revenue between center and states. For example, let's say center is now keeping 60% of the taxes collected and states are getting 40%. Now center can say, sorry, there is emergency, there is war, we can't give you so much money, states. So center says we'll keep 90%, states you keep 10%. That's possible. This can be done. Now, such alteration of revenue distribution, of course, cannot extend beyond the expiry of the financial year in which the proclamation ceases to operate. So, this change of revenue distribution will continue till the end of that financial year in which the emergency ended. For example, let's take an example here. Uh, Emergency proclaimed on say 8th of April 2023. On this date, emergency has been proclaimed. Are you clear? Now, let us assume that emergency ends on uh, ends 5th of December 2023. Now, revenue alteration will continue till what time? Till the end of that financial year in which the emergency ceased to operate. So this revenue alteration will end on which financial year? 31/03/24. Are we clear on this? But the same thing, let me ask you once again. What if the emergency continues case 2? What if the emergency continues and ends on 2nd of April 24? Then tell me, the revenue alteration will continue till what date? Okay. Niranjan, please check your answer. Very good, others. It will continue till the end of that financial year in which the emergency ceased to operate. That is a financial year 24-25. Are we clear on this? The financial effect, Article 354. Now, the effect on fundamental rights. Very important. We have borrowed this provision from the Weimar Republic of Germany, that during the emergency, your fundamental rights can be varied. Clear? Now, as far as the effect is concerned on rights, let's look at Article 358 first. Whenever national, please hear me out patiently, it's very simple to understand. Whenever emergency is imposed on external reason, what can be an external reason? War, or external aggression. These are external reasons. What's an internal reason? In armed rebellion, internal reason. Whenever emergency is imposed on external reason, like war, external aggression, then Article 19 gets suspended automatically Article 19 is a fundamental right which gets suspended automatically. No need of any order, no need of any notification, nothing is required. It is automatic. You have to know that this has been suspended. Are we clear? Only Article 19 is suspended. Think of it that in the Constitution, there is no Article 19 only, right? It is not there. During the entire phase of the national emergency, there is no Article 19. That's what you have to assume. So, if during emergency, if things go wrong, your Article 19 is violated, you can do nothing about it, even after emergency. Why? Because during emergency, there is no Article 19. Article 19 talks about things like freedom of speech and expression, the right to move here and there, the right to form associations, etc. Gone. Khatam. During emergency. It is not there only. Right in itself, per se means in itself is suspended. No right only. Okay. This is applicable to the entire area of emergency and also for the entire duration. It cannot be partial. For the entire duration of emergency, no Article 19, and for that entire area wherever emergency is there, no Article 19. Clear? Now, only Article 19 is suspended. But let's move on to Article 359. Article 359 is a simpler proposition. During emergency, the any kind of reason, I mean, any condition, it could be war, it could be external aggression, it could be armed rebellion, any reason. It is applicable under any condition. So if let's say there is some emergency due to war or armed rebellion, then during that emergency, the president can issue an order. President has to issue an order, and the president can say, guys, right now you cannot move to the court to protect your Article 20. You can't move to court to protect Article 21. You can't move to court to protect Article 25. You can't move to court to protect Article 14. Right is not suspended. It is just that you cannot go to court to get the protection from the courts. Right is there. You just can't use it. So, movement to court is suspended. Please understand here. The movement to court is suspended. So think of it that Article 32 allows for movement to court. That is not there. Meaning, after emergency is over, then you can move to court. Then you can move to court, but not right now. So we are not taking away your rights. Only the enforcement part is not being given to you. Right now, you can't enjoy it. So if somebody violates your right, don't worry, keep a record of it. Once emergency is over, you can go to court and claim that. Even whatever wrong was committed during emergency, because right is there, you just can't use it. Article 358 has a wider perspective. Here, right only is gone, but here, right is there. You just can't use it right now. Simple. Are we clear? And yes, this can be specific in the sense it can be for a specific area and for a specific duration also. Meaning, the government can say, or the president can issue order and say, people of Rajasthan, you cannot enjoy or you cannot go to court to claim Article 25, the freedom of religion. People of Maharashtra, you cannot go to court to claim right to equality for 14 days. So all these things can be done. different types of orders can be given under this. That's why we say that Article 38, 358 is very wide. Why is it very wide? Because you have suspended the right only. Right is dead during the emergency. But Article 359 is very narrow because rights are alive. We have not ended the rights. All I am saying is wait right now, let the emergency be over, then you go and claim it. Who is stopping you? Right now, don't run to the court. Simple. That's all I'm asking. That's it. Are we clear, everybody? This is Article 358 and 359. Ganesh, complaint to police. Okay. See, there is a misconception amongst us that that police is an authority where you can go and complain. No, no, that's a wrong use of word. We use it very casually, but you can only think of it. Think of it that your elder brother or sister is beating you. Now you go to a nearby shop and tell a shopkeeper, my elder sibling is beating me. What's the point? Does the shopkeeper have any say in your internal family matters? Of course not. You can go and complain to your father or mother. Why? Why not to a random person? Tell me. Why can you not complain to a random person? Because random person has no power to punish your elder sibling, to give them a proper thrashing. Your parents have the power. So we always complain to that authority which has the power to punish. Police has no power to punish anybody. The courts punish. So even when you go to police, you can only inform the police of what wrong has happened. Ultimately, the police will take your case to court only. But you can't do that. That is why we say that you can't complain only. What's the point? Clear? So this is there. Nikhil, what's the point of enforcement of rights after rights have been violated? It's like saying to victim. Nikhil, but that's how it is. You will only move to court in most cases when your rights have been violated. How can you move to court before right has been violated? The time delay can be there. Moving to court immediately or after 10 days or after 1 year. But this is premised on this logic that I will move to court before my right is violated. That may not be possible, right? Anyway, now coming to a larger point which I wanted to explain here. This is a story which happened in our country. A very, very famous case called ADM Jabalpur versus Shivkan Shukla. This case in 1976, a historic day for the Supreme Court, which gave an amazing judgment on the 28th of April 1976. Always remember this day and this date also because of Supreme Court's extremely high level of intellectual capacity. I mean, I'll just explain what happened. So back in 1971, there was a law made by the Indira Gandhi government called MISA, Maintenance of Internal Security Act, MISA. Now, this was a law which was meant to keep a check on any kind of activity during emergency, etc. And later on, the government also gave a protection to this law, made some changes, and said that if the police detains you, arrests you, you cannot go to court. Even if your Article 21, what is Article 21? Article 21 is right to life. That's the most important article. If you're not alive only, What's the use of any other right? So Article 21 is the most important article. This is the right to life and liberty. Life and personal liberty. According to MISA, with the modification in section 18, detention could not be challenged in court even if your liberty was getting violated. Meaning, during emergency, if the police kills you also, you can't complain. What kind of logic is this? In fact, this MISA was used by the government to jail almost 36,000 people, political prisoners. 36,000 people were jailed, right? Now, this law was challenged. In fact, so much so was this law misused that people started calling this law as Maintenance of Indira and Sanjay Act. Sanjay Gandhi, her son. So to maintain them in power, that's the reason for this law. Anyway, this law was challenged in the Supreme Court, 5-judge bench, constitutional bench, great judges, Y.V. Chandrachud, father of the current Chief Justice of India, Justice P.N. Bhagwati. Let me mention in order only. Then A.N. Ray, the then Chief Justice, M.H. Beg, next Chief Justice, Y.V. Chandrachud, next Chief Justice, P.N. Bhagwati, next Chief Justice, and H.R. Khanna. He did not become the Chief Justice of India, ever. My question to all of you is very simple. Tell me, if there is emergency in the country, can that be used as a ground by the government to take away life and liberty of people without any reason? Simple question. I think most of you are not students of law, but still, there is a basic understanding that right to life does not just come from Article 21. Rule of law protects life, right? These 4 judges, 4:1 judgment came. Supreme Court said, right of the government to take away, or to, let me use this word, to suspend all fundamental rights. That means including Article 21, right to life. This was the Supreme Court's grand and amazing judgment. And one judge, Justice H.R. Khanna, I think he's the only judge whose name should be remembered, he said no, that's not possible. And he, in his dissenting opinion, said that I don't agree. Article 21 is not the only source of life. Rule of law protects life, right? We cannot take away life of people without following proper procedure. It cannot be random. Anyway, it was a 4:1 judgment. And HR A.N. Ray was a then Chief Justice, favorite of Indira Gandhi because he had given a judgment earlier also in the favor of Indira Gandhi in the Keshwan Bharti case. He had refused to be a part of the basic structure concept. Later on, in 1977, when Indira Gandhi finally thought, let's end emergency, because she was very hopeful of winning the election, and you know how all these leaders try to always make the same kind of statement. They try to legitimize their right to govern. They always try to derive that legitimacy by making all these statements that we have to be disciplined, etc. So Indira Gandhi also used to make all these statements that discipline makes the nation great, and then there would be hoardings across the country. She stood between order and chaos, and Indira Gandhi would mention that this is a bitter pill for the sick child. Or I believe there's a Saturday review, New York Saturday review, where she gave this interview and said, emergency is not the abrogation of democracy, but an effort to safeguard democracy, right? And when she was announcing on the All India Radio emergency on the 25th of 26th of June morning, 1975, 6 a.m., she said that the president has proclaimed emergency. There is nothing to panic about. It is a response to the the deep and widespread conspiracy. Because of the progressive measures I have begun to take, there are foreign hands which are, you know, interfering in my free functioning, and I need to give this bitter pill to the sick child, right? Can you find some similarity? Foreign hands. It is a need of the hour. Great leader, supreme leader, right? Always correct. Avatar of God. Anyway, we all know that these situations always demand some great leader trying to get this legitimacy through showcasing that opposition is trying to destruct the country, nationalism, right? That is why we say that when dictatorship becomes a fact, revolution becomes a right of every individual. And what's a bigger surprise was that I mean, we are witnessing a situation where the judiciary, the so-called judiciary, which has the task to uphold the principles, etc., upholding rule of law, succumbed to the pressure, right? And this submission of an independent judiciary to an absolutist government is a last step in the destruction of democratic society, right? So this is the classic example of the history of Supreme Court. H.R. Khanna, the only judge who dissented, he was a senior most Supreme Court judge after A.N. Ray. So when A.N. Ray tenure was over in January, Indira Gandhi did not make H.R. Khanna the Chief Justice of India, who was the senior most, but bypassed him to make M.H. Beg the Chief Justice of India. H.R. Khanna resigned immediately, but he had to be a part of a dissenting opinion at the cost of a CGI's career. So, I mean, frankly, the only person who deserved to be the CGI was not to be the CGI ever. In 2011, Justice P.N. Bhagwati did issue a public apology that it was a wrong judgment and all. It's too little too late. Who needs the apology now? This is a classic example of what we know as a committed judiciary. What is a committed judiciary? It's a negative term. It is not a positive term. It's a negative term. Committed judiciary refers to a judiciary which is committed to what? Which is committed to upholding the government's policies. Judiciary committed to upholding government's policy. Is this what the judiciary should be? No. You have to uphold the constitution, not the government's policy. And that is why the exact opposite of this is a term called assertive judiciary. What is assertive judiciary? Now, this is a positive concept. Assertive judiciary means a judiciary upholding rights of people. Sadly, this is the history of our Supreme Court, and that is where the beauty lies in the finer details of how the courts have been the play tool at the hands of various parties which have come to power in the country, right? Anyway, once this became a very serious cause of concern, Indira Gandhi announced the elections. Of course, she lost the election because of some drastic measures that her son largely took, right? And what happened? Janata Party came to power. Janata Party made some changes, including this change that you will never be able to suspend the right of people to move to court for Articles 20 and 21. Article 20 is about self incrimination, etc. So you will never be forced into being a witness against yourself. You'll not be given double punishment. And if this is happening or your right to life is being taken away, then you are allowed to move to court, whether it is a national emergency or otherwise. So this is never suspended. This was added via the 44th Amendment Act 1978. Okay, that's there. So this is with respect to Article 359 and 358. I hope you understood all the concepts, including the Akash, sir, can writs be protected by courts? No, Akash, that is the whole point. Writs are what? Writs are issued to protect the fundamental rights. No, they may not. If the government issues an order, you cannot go to court asking them to issue writs. What is writ? Writ is basically the order that the court issues to protect your rights. That may not be issued. Clear? Let's now move on. Don't feel bad for HR Khanna, Dinesh. It's okay. Uh, Great men don't need some kind of post, right, to prove their greatness. It's okay. We don't need to legitimize the greatness of people. So the likes of the genuine and true leaders don't really need anybody's appreciation. That's how it is. So that is there, Ganesh. Now it's changing. I don't know. I would beg to differ on this, whether it is changing truly or not. I mean, yes, things have improved by and large, but has the Supreme Court been active on various matters and has it been taking the matter sincerely? That is a story better left for a discussion on criticizing judiciary. A lot of people still have a problem that the judiciary is taking too much of time in deciding some very important matters. And because of that time duration, the options before the judiciary are limited in terms of what they can do to take care of that problem. That's it. But yes, things have changed. And let me tell you, when people keep on reminding us, right, that We had the emergency 1970s. Yes, of course we did. People suffered. But how are things any different now? Just because there is no official order does not mean things are different. Right? Sadly, whenever democracy throws any leader who becomes extremely popular, this is bound to happen. This is bound to happen. That then the leader feels that I am always correct. What do others know? Fools, stupid people. And that is why people say, when, let's ask the people voting democracy. Ambedkar was against democracy. Now, Ambedkar was very elitist also in his viewpoint, but he used to say that democracy is donkeys electing donkeys. Now, it cannot be further from truth, at least for some of our great politicians, frankly. Right? So that's also there. But our makers largely believed that everybody has a basic understanding of how to choose our elected leaders. Clearly, no. I mean, as the joke goes, that if you have to still put labels on the bleaching powder, don't drink. We are not sure how intellectual a common man is, right? So, ask the common man may not be a very good idea. Anyway, so moving on now to the president's rule. That's why I always keep on reminding you that this is not going to just be a job. This is going to be a huge burden on your shoulders to ensure that you work with neutrality and you work for the welfare of the poorest of the poor, ensuring that everybody gets equal opportunities to succeed in life. We have to ensure fairness in life. The principles of natural justice have to be followed, come what may. And it is your responsibility, not just as a civil servant, as an Indian citizen, right? So, yes, it's not just a job, it's way more than a job, right? Okay. Now, the president's rule, we'll come to it shortly, but just a small article before it. So, there is an article 355 which talks about how the center should play the big brotherly role of ensuring the safety and security of the states. So, Article 355 says that it's the duty of the Union to protect every state against external aggression and internal disturbance. We have to protect every state against these problems. Not just this, the center should also ensure that the government of the state is carried on in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. Meaning, come what may, the government of this every state should abide by the rules, regulations of the constitution. If it does not happen, then what can happen? We'll see shortly. That is a classic case of president's rule, Article 356. Who can impose it? Of course, the president can impose it. That's why it's called president's rule. On his own, or when he receives a report from the governor. See, the governor can also give a negative report that, please, president, impose emergency. Why? When a situation has arisen in a state in which the government of the state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of this constitution. Whenever this problem happens, whenever in any state the government of the state cannot function within the framework of the constitution, emergency has to be imposed, a state emergency or a constitutional emergency, or we call it president's rule. So now, when you impose president's rule, what's the role of parliament? Just like national emergency, approval by parliament has to be done, but within 2 months. In case of national emergency, approval within how many months? Tell me quickly. A national emergency must be approved within how many months? Within 1 month only. From the date of proclamation, it has to be approved within 1 month. Number two, The national emergency must be approved by the parliament with what kind of majority? Special majority. National, special. Here, simple majority. More than 50% present and voting. Okay, great. Same story here also. It can remain in operation for 6 months at a time, but slight difference here. 6 months not from date of approval, 6 months from date of proclamation. Date of the issue of proclamation. So from the date you proclaim the president's rule, within 6 months it will end, right? And the parliament has to approve it within 2 months. Here also it can be extended for 6 months, again approval, 6 months, again approval. So just let me draw a small timeline here for you to help you understand. See, this is the date of proclamation. Okay, here the president's rule has to be approved. It continues for 6 months. Very good. Again, here also PR has to be approved. Again, continues for 6 months. Now, 1 year is over. If you want to further continue the president's rule beyond 1 year, a small condition is there. Condition is that ECI permission is required. Basically, the idea is that if there is president's rule in any part or in any state, there is no state government, there is no assembly. Are you clear? So what we have to do is we have to now conduct elections, make a give to the people a responsible government. That is why elections must be conducted immediately. But if you are continuing the president's rule for more than 1 year, election commission must give us a certificate that elections cannot be conducted in the state right now. Only then can you extend the president's rule beyond 1 year. Clear? Or one more thing, if there is national emergency in the country, then of course, then the president's rule can continue. That's of course there. But to continue beyond 1 year, ECI must give the approval. Are we clear, everyone? So again, ECI gave the approval and also Parliament approves. That's also there. President's rule approved. It continues for again 6 months. Again, President's rule approved. Again, continues for 6 months. Again, approved. Again, continues for 6 months. Now, I'm not enjoying it. So, 1 year, 2 year, again, President's rule approved. 6 months. Finally, we have reached the 3 year mark. Done. We can't continue beyond that. Within 3 years, maximum period of 3 years, after which constitutional machinery must be restored. If at any point of time you have to extend beyond 3 years, you have to modify the constitution. Are we clear? It was done in Punjab, 1980s. We had to amend the constitution. Without amending the constitution, you cannot extend the emergency beyond, you cannot extend the president's rule beyond 3 years. Are we clear? There is no upper limit for national emergency. Did we see this here? Can continue. indefinitely. But for president's rule, there is an upper limit of how many months? Of 36 months. That is 3 years. Simple. This is the upper limit for president's rule. It cannot continue beyond 3 years. Are we all okay? What is the effect? Very simple. President will assume to himself all the functions and powers of the government of the state, center. And the president will also declare that the power of the state legislature shall be exercisable by the parliament. Basically, to cut a long story short, state government is not there. So who acts as state government? Of course, governor. So let's write president only. So president is acting through the governor. Second, there is no parliament. No state legislature also. Not there. So who acts as a state legislature? Parliament. So basically, central government becomes the state government and the central legislature becomes the state legislature during emergency, which is a state emergency or a president's rule. Are we clear, everybody? No puja, governor's report may not be mandatory. It is just one of the options, right? But ideally, why would the president use it on his own, right? So then the governor reports become mandatory. But no, it's not mentioned in the constitution that it's a mandate. Now let's do one thing. Let's take a break. After break, we'll come back and discuss the guidelines with respect to president's rule. And no, Kamapati, there is no effect on fundamental rights. President's rule has got nothing to do with fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are intact. It is only violated during national emergency, not during president's rule. Are we clear? Everybody? Okay. So that's it. Let's end our discussion here only. Let's come after half an hour at 5:35 to continue our discussion further on president's rule. Break, please.